having. How's it going? Where's it going to go? And how did it even start? This is a Reuters article. Africa's miners and winemakers toast China's row with Australia. So they're having this conflict, this economic conflict. And now China is starting to look towards nations in Africa to replace their dependency on Australian imports. And this is not just for ore, iron ore, but it's also for minerals and also for things like wine. South Africa has a developed wine industry. So that's where China is importing these goods from now. And right here, it kind of tries to explain how this all started. And they're saying that China slapped all these tariffs on Australian goods after Australia called for an inquiry into the origins of COVID-19. And they make it sound like the Australian government was just asking questions and China reacted this way. But in actuality, we remember the tone of these inquiries, and the US was doing the same thing at the time. This was not asking questions. This was trying to blame China for COVID-19 and the global disaster that followed. And I've pointed out many times before that even if you want to suggest that it originated in China and that China was irresponsible and allowed it to spread all over its country, as soon as it crossed the border into, say, Australia or into the United States, what stopped those governments from identifying it, isolating it, and stopping it from spreading? And if they could not do that, how did they expect China to do that? So it's exposed as just pure propaganda. It's part of this wider propaganda campaign waged by the West against China to poison the world against them, because the West cannot accept China surpassing them economically. They cannot. You can see them openly saying they will not. If you go through this Reuters article, you're going to see how China is already doing this. They're already reducing the amount of imports from Australia and replacing them with imports from Africa. Let's look at this article. ABC Australia, funded by the Australian government. Australia to produce its own guided missiles as part of billion-dollar defense manufacturing plan. So this is how they plan on compensating for all this self-inflicted economic damage they've done with this needless antagonism of China. And let's look at who the partners are here. Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, BAE, Raytheon and Lockheed, these are US-based arms manufacturers. They're talking about subsidiaries in Australia. They're the ones that are going to benefit from this. They're benefiting from the trade war, and now they're benefiting from this missile program, which, think about it, where are they going to point these missiles after they build them? Or when they hand them over to other countries in the region, where do you think they're going to point them? They're going to point them at China. So they're just ratcheting up the tension even further. And who is this benefiting? It's benefiting these arms manufacturers. And if you've seen policy papers or if you've seen anti-Chinese propaganda, you'll probably see the Australian Strategic Policy Institute cited. And who funds the Australian Strategic Policy Institute? You just go to funding, and they will tell you who funds them. You go down, it's the Australian government, it's the US government, and it's also Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon. They're all right there. So it's very clear what's going on here. The Australian government is not pursuing policy in the best interests of the Australian people. They have deliberately created a crisis. They have sabotaged their nation's own economy, all to satisfy this US agenda of encircling and containing China. Instead of working constructively with China side by side, the West, the US and its allies, like Australia, insist on imposing themselves above all other nations. And so, is it working? It doesn't look like it's working. Do you think that you can actually replace real economic activity with just making weapons and promoting conflict? How do they imagine that that's going to end well? I don't know. I'm just pointing this out. I want people to see this and think about it from a slightly different angle, because if you just read Reuters or ABC Australia, they're going to lead you to believe that China is the problem here, when clearly Australia did this to themselves. And not only did they do it, and not only do they see how badly it's hurting their economy, but they're doubling down on it with things like this missile program. So if you thought this video was useful, please like and share it. Think about subscribing to the channel. It helps the channel grow, and it's free to do. Look in the video description for the links to these articles, as well as to ways you can help support my work so I can keep making videos like this. And to my Patreon patrons who pointed out some of these articles and topics, thank you very much. And as always, thank you for watching.